notification to go out as well. Just over on Discord saying hello. So we will see who is first in today. See if I can refresh the chat box before the first person comes in. It's not worked for Shumpike and Teresa as far as the chat box on screen is concerned, but Shunpike, I can say, has officially won this week's first Foxy Book Club race. Shumpike in first, Teresa in second, Shannon in third, Mabel's fourth. Who will be next? And we've got some lovely pink text to match my pinkish reddish t-shirt today, which is just a complete coincidence. It's the magic of the random text. You never know what you're going to get, but it just manages to get it right today. And we've got Ada in fifth, Claire in sixth, Olivia in seventh. Who else is participating in today's... I've got to get those mistakes out of the way now. I've got to be able to warm up my mouth before the reading starts. Who else is participating in today's Fox Fan races? I see Madeline coming in 8th. Shumpike 1, Teresa 2, Shannon 3, Mabel 4, Ada 5, Claire 6, Olivia 7, Madeline 8. Any other races? Place your bets. There you go. Heather in 9. Who else can finish in the top 10 today? You want to at least get some points. Obviously, the podium out there for the top 3, as always. That's not my rule. That's just the rules of the world. Anybody know who starts? Mango is in 10th position to round off the points today at the Fox Fan races. Anybody know who actually officially started the podium system of the 1, 2, 3 gold, silver, bronze? I don't know. That's a genuine question. My guess would be the Greeks and the very first Olympic Games, the ancient Greeks. Whether that's true, I do not know, but I would like to know. And then I was also thinking of Formula One back in the day when I used to closely follow it as a child. They used to have the top 10 scored points, and the rest of the places did not point. They did not score. So you had points for the individual drivers, points for the manufacturers, and I know they've changed this system a few times over the years, so now I currently have no clue whatsoever what the system is. I think it's roughly the same, but not quite as I remember it in the good old days of Michael Schumacher and so. How is everybody today? Tora has also joined just outside the points today, I think in 11th place, Tora, but still very nice to see you here at the Fox Fan Racecourse. It's always a race, Heather. You know, every single aspect of life has to be a competition. There's always got to be winners. There's always got to be losers. And Kimmy comes in. Welcome to Kim, the Aussie admin. Very nice to see you in a stream. Has anybody said hello from Facebook today? I don't think so. My multi-stream view is actually working, which is lovely. So maybe I can keep it on here as well. It's like I said before, it's not very interesting, but the multi-stream view on my Streamlabs OBS shows you all as the same colour, so it's not as easy to see who's talking as on the YouTube view. It's very easy because you're more differentiated with your little profile pictures. I think this was quite a leisurely welcome, to be honest, Shannon, compared to the first time I was doing the Fox fan races. Was it the end of, not last week, the week before, was it? That was a little bit more intense. So I was going for a little bit more of a leisurely version. But it's just nice to keep you on your toes. Yeah, good thinking, Kim. I hope you've all had a decent weekend, whatever you've been up to. I know some of you will have been extremely busy. Some of you might not have been feeling too well. But I hope it's gone as smoothly as possible. And for those of you that have had a great weekend, then fantastic. And welcome to this Monday's Foxy Book Club. It's very nice to be back 3 weeks in a row now. Not the third Monday in a row, but the third week in a row. And I'm really, really enjoying this little routine we've got going. So hello also to Laurie, and welcome to Juz, and hello to Jake. Thank you for joining and saying hello in the stream. Really, really, really nice to see you. What am I missing now, Shannon? What am I missing? I have been skimming just a little bit, though, I must admit. So yeah, hope we're all doing well. I'm going to kick things off, as promised, with Tamaria Prince today. I think I might just lower this camera just a little tad there. I don't know if that's helped or not. It just felt a little bit high. The stand had got adjusted by accident, I think, over the weekend. But this looks okay. So yeah, as promised, I wanted to kickstart with some Tamaria Prince today. And it's sort of open from there, really. So I'm thinking probably The Witches. It's been the sort of fan favourite at the moment. But I'm open for suggestions. We do have a lovely range of books on the go at the moment, so we'll see how we feel. After Tamaria Prince, I will probably put it to the vote. But I'm sort of mentally prepared for some more Witches. But honestly, I mean, I'm really enjoying everything we've got going, whether it's 1984, Pride and Prejudice, James Herriot's If Only They Could Talk, or even some other stuff. I really don't mind too much. Exactly, Heather. No, I just felt like there was a lot of white screen up at the top there. Especially when I leant back a little bit. I felt like I was, cut off at the hips or something. Jake has just finished Cold Fire by Dean Koontz. I'm not familiar with that one, Jake. Sounds like you've enjoyed it. Was this over on Audible, perhaps? Yeah. Careful with your multitasking, Juz. And hello to Lynette as well, aka Miss Bookworm. Welcome. And welcome to Orange as well. Why do you ask that? There's a real range of Fox fans here. Juz from Australia originally, but not living in Australia these days. Kim is down in Australia. And then, as you know, we've got Fox fans all over the place. So, yeah, she technically is, Shannon. And you're from the past. It's very strange. The Indian in the Cupboard. No, I'm not familiar with that one either, Shumpike. There's just so many books out there. I can't keep track of them all. To be honest, I don't even try. I would fail miserably. Well, on YouTube. Oh, good stuff, Jake. Good stuff. So yeah, I would like to get started. I hope you're all settled. I hope Monday hasn't been too heavy so far. And as always, that a bit of Tamaria Prince can just act as a little bit of therapy for the next 30-40 minutes or so. I've not skimmed through this next one, so I'm not even sure if it's a particularly long one or a particularly average one or whatever. We will see. I was just checking I've got it set up okay. It looks fine. Yeah, I think we're pretty good to go. Pretty good. Good stuff, Kim. Good stuff. All right. We will see if any other Fox fans pop in as we go. But let's have a nice leisurely start with some Tamaria Prince. And then if we do go for some of Roald Dahl's The Witches, we know things are going to get a little bit hectic. We even had an encore reading on Friday with a third chapter of The Witches because it was just awesome. And you were obviously really enjoying it. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to some more. We would technically be moving on to chapter 12, I think. Yeah, chapter 12. They're not named in such a way, that's why I can't just quickly look into the book for the chapter number. But yeah, if we do read The Witches today, I can definitely see us having 3 chapters as well, because that second one is pretty short. So yeah, let's see how you feel after Tamaria Prince, but I'm definitely up for it. If you're up for it, I'm up for it. Oh, it's 4:20. All right, yeah, good spot, Juz. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Good stuff. God, look at you, Mabel, just chilling out. Like it. Like your style. Just checking Discord. Checking that no one was stranded over there. All looks good. Shannon dropping the link as well. Thank you for that. Yeah, I know you do, Lynette. I know you do. Okay, let's fire up Tamaria Prince and get settled into some reading. Let's see what's going on with the prince and the potential princess. Richard and Bella finding... I mean, I guess Richard, he sort of sees it coming. He pretty much knows what Bella's getting herself into, but after a relatively smooth start, things have been getting a little bit more shaky. So let's see what chapter 14 holds. So, hope you enjoy, everybody. Just a very, 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 very quick one before I start. Is the sound level okay today? I was just doing an extremely brief bit of re-recording to patch up a couple of minor mistakes in the Dracula complete audiobook that I'm making at the moment. I've been sticking together the first 10 chapters that we had. I'm making that a complete audiobook part 1. And I did pause at chapter 10 for a reason. I did 5 chapters, finished off Narnia, 5 chapters, and I knew that that would be an okay ledge because it's almost exactly 1/3 of the way through. So I'd got the Christmas Carol streams planned over Christmas. Knew that I wanted to make some progress with Lord of the Rings, keeping things a little bit open. So I thought 10 chapters would be an okay ledge. I didn't think I would be paused from Dracula quite as long as I have been, but I wasn't expecting the world events and then the live streams that we've been having with such regularity. So I had planned on getting chapter 11 of Dracula to you by now, but as we're at the 1/3 completed stage, it feels like a good time to knock together the first part of Dracula. And it's nice for me as well just to refresh myself with what's already been read and recorded and everything, and get back into the mood and everything. So yeah, there was just a couple of minor errors that I was correcting whilst making the complete audiobook today. I've still got quite a bit of work to do on it, but it shouldn't take too much longer, so I should have that up within the next couple of days. But yeah, I just had to adjust my microphone settings slightly, so I was just curious as to whether it was a little bit too quiet or whether we were okay. Oh, and Lily's popped in as well. Nice to see you again, Lily. Good stuff. Oh, and Mango's answering my earlier questions. It seems like it was the Olympics. And it was 1904 Olympics as well. Okay, so it's much more recent than I imagined. Interesting. I feel like I've been missing something as well. Stephen, read a H. Oh, I do. Oh, were you saying ahead a second? Oh, okay. It's okay. Yeah, I'm pushing on with Tamaria Prince chapter 14. Obviously this story can get a little bit racy at times, but I don't think there's anything too graphic. But yeah, if parents of children think that Tamaria Prince is a bit too heavy, then that's your decision, not mine. We keep things pretty family friendly here, but it's an open stream to be enjoyed by everyone, but equally it's not a stream for children either. So readers beware, you're in for a scare, as R.L. Stine says in Goosebumps. So who else is popping in? Wei Chen as well. Nice to see you. Another Foxy Book Club regular these days. Good stuff. So volumes okay. Yes, Dracula complete audiobook part 1 is on its way. 7 hours of Dracula for those of you that have not listened to it or looking forward to a nice smooth way to re-listen to those first 10 chapters and get in the mood for chapter 11 and onwards, which will be starting soon. Oh, thanks very much, Jin. Really nice of you to join us in the book club today. Thanks for saying hello. Don't you worry about lurking, Olivia. You can lurk all you want. Just enjoy the stream. But yeah, that was sort of the plan, Mango. Like, nice, relaxing, fun start with Tamaria Prince. And then I was going to put it to the vote, but sort of leaning towards Witches because it's just been a lot of fun. And I think a lot of you will appreciate 2 or 3 more chapters. Alright, I'm getting started. The mic check was a success. So this is Sophie Page's To Marry a Prince. Chapter 14. What's your worst New Year ever? Tube Talk. It was their last chance to be alone together in the run-up to Christmas. Ian said he couldn't give Bella the updated diary pages. She suspected that was Wormtongue's doing. But she didn't sneak on him to Richard. For one thing, it seemed feeble. For another, Richard was desperately busy, rushing about all over the country and out of it. She knew that because she saw pictures of him in the papers and on the news. He did a goodwill trip to New York with a bunch of industrialists in tow and sent her a text from the dance floor of Bar Bahia. "I'm boogieing for Britain here. Where are you when I need you?" She laughed and texted back, "Ready to boogie any time." It was really late by then, the small hours in London, and Bella knew she should have been asleep. Instead, she was sitting cross-legged on her bed, with a pashmina shawl round her shoulders and thick ski socks on her feet, trying to sort out some files for the evil dentist. Work was becoming increasingly busy as people dashed in to sort out their dental problems before the holidays. She wanted to get the whole system indexed and in perfect order before she left on Christmas Eve. There would be no handover period with her successor. Bella had rented a car and would be picking up Granny Georgia at the airport before driving the two of them and Lottie down to the New Forest for Christmas. Bella would spend the rest of Christmas week with Janet and Kevin before heading north to Drummond House, the royal residence on the edge of the Highlands, for the new year. She was not looking forward to the new year. On Richard's advice, Bella had braced herself for another little talk with Lady Pansy in advance of the invitation. It was an afternoon gig, and Lady Pansy had served up a terrifying list of traditions and customs for the new year, along with china teacups in position... along with china tea in cups of porcelain so thin that their contents were cold before the first sip. Bella liked builder's tea with a good slug of milk, or Earl Grey if she was pushed. She nearly gagged at the smoky herbal stuff that Lady Pansy favoured. It was, as she told Lottie afterwards, somehow slimy and sharp at the same time. "Vomitorious," said Lottie, repelled. "Tell me about it." And then she went on forever about the family traditions and how they'd been spending New Year there since 1839 or something. I tell you, lots, my head began to spin. I'm not surprised. The woman sounds a complete pill. I don't think she means to be. She's very gentle and pleasant. I think she's doing her best to turn me into a good little courtier in the time available. But my family hasn't done anything since 1839, and I can't get worked up about traditions unless they have some point to them." Lottie grinned. "That's my girl. Red Finn would be proud of you." Bella groaned. "Don't talk to me about my father. I think he's deliberately trying to make things worse. He was threatening to write the Dispatch about royalty grinding the faces of the poor in the dust the last time we spoke. One thing I'll say for Finn, he's consistent. So is Lady Pansy," said Bella, returning to her original grievance. "Just look at that." She flung a bulky envelope onto the kitchen table. Lottie turned it over curiously. It had the royal monogram on the back and weighed a ton. "What's this?" Briefing, said Bella in a voice of doom. Briefing? For the New Year party? Yes. For 2 days? Yes. The woman's mad, said Lottie with conviction. Nobody reads briefings of more than a page. What's in all this bump, for God's sake? Protocol. When you get up, when you eat breakfast, where you eat breakfast, where you're expected to be at all times of the day, how to curtsy, how to drink the loyal toast. Did you know that some people are allowed to say, "The King, God bless him"? Not very many. Most people are expected to say, "The King," and shut the F up. Lottie boggled. Then there's the ball. Instructions on what to wear, skirt length and fullness of. Shoes. Shoes? Soft-soled princess pumps are preferred, read Bella out loud. Oh, God, it's like I've fallen through a wormhole into another universe. Individually the words make sense, but I don't know what they mean when you put them all together like that. She soon found out. Lady Pansy, it transpired, had taken the initiative. First off, a small box arrived from a Scottish footwear manufacturer, containing shoes that were more like unstructured ballet slippers. They were light and pretty, but too big for Bella's feet. Why doesn't the woman bloody ask? Fumed Bella, phoning the company. She was horrified to find that Lady Pansy had blagged them out of the company for free, as a gift to the Prince of Wales. They are nothing to do with the Prince, said Bella tightly down the phone to the Highlands. Please send me an invoice. Yes, for both sizes. I shall be paying. But that wasn't the only thing that Lady Pansy had ordered to turn Bella into a halfway decent guest at the royal family's New Year house party. A large, flat box also arrived. Lottie and Bella surveyed it cautiously. It looks like one of those old-fashioned laundry boxes my grandmother used to have, said Bella. They opened it. Inside was a ball dress. That's a ball dress and a half, said Lottie, extracting it from loads of tissue paper, an expression of fascinated horror on her face. It was shiny and very, very full. The material was so rigid the thing could have stood up on its own, but it had a stiff underskirt anyway, just in case. It was patterned in huge vertical stripes of purple, turquoise, midnight blue, and cerise. When Bella put it on, it turned out to have sleeves puffed to such bloated proportions she would have to go through doors sideways. It was beyond dreadful. But it ticks all the sodding boxes, said Bella, beginning to gibber. No slits, no bare upper arms, full length, full skirt, not black. Ah! Lottie was studying Lady P's briefing. Tiaras may be worn. Wonder if she's going to send you one of those too. But Lady P's initiative had worn itself out with the stipend horror. Oh, sorry. Had worn itself out with the striped horror. Stripes, she said, when Bella rang to query the purchase, are very slimming, and puffed sleeves are so youthful. The Queen, she added as a clincher, agrees with me. Bella put the phone down, defeated. But Lottie was made of sterner stuff. Look, there could be a misunderstanding. Hope on, hope ever. Take a dress of your own as well." Bella looked at the horror with loathing. "I don't have anything that meets the criteria. I've got to do Scottish dancing in the thing. Me! You know me and dancing. I wish I was dead." Lottie was sobered. "Lady P has sent over instructions on how to dance Scottish reels. There are bits on the footwork and bits on the arm gestures. Only gentlemen raise their arms above their heads in the Highland Scottish, whatever that is. There's no namby-pamby gender equality on a Highland dance floor, I'll have you know. And there are even bloody road maps on the dances themselves." "Bella," said Lottie very quietly, "I'm sorry, but I think you're going balmy." "So do I." "Dances don't have road maps. Scottish dances do. It's deeply depressing." Of course, Richard, bopping away for king and country and Bar Bahia, didn't know that. He texted, "We'll boogie in the new year," to which Bella replied, "Wanna bet?" Almost immediately, her phone rang. "What is it, sweetheart? You're not getting cold feet about coming to Drummond?" "Not cold feet, no, but I haven't got time to do the necessary homework." "Sorry, I missed that. Did you say homework?" "Yes." She could hear the Latin rhythms in the club behind him. "Don't follow." She told him about Lady Pansy's package. "The dress makes me feel ill to look at. And the dance instructions are like preparation for an outward-bound course," she said in horror, "with crossword puzzles and charades thrown in. I may run away to sea." "Nah, not you. You're not a runner." "I could be. How the hell do you make an arch without raising your arms above your head?" "Ah, the reels," he said, enlightened. "Look, forget all that. I'll make sure you only dance with me or guys who know what they're doing." Said Bella, unconvinced. "Trust me. Just close your eyes and I'll drive. I came reeling out of the womb." "Oh, God." "Don't worry, dream girl. I'll get you through it." "You'll need to," she said grumpily, but she felt better for talking to him. The week before Christmas was mad, with lots of parties at which she saw people she hadn't heard from for ages. Some of them knew she was seeing the Prince of Wales, but very few of them cared. Very few of them, Bella thought with a little chill, expected it to last. By lunchtime on Christmas Eve, the shops were empty, and the London streets nearly deserted. There was a fine fall of rain, but it was too warm to turn to snow. Both girls stowed their overnight cases and presents in the back seat of the rented car, leaving the boot free for Georgia's international luggage, and went off to Heathrow to meet her flight. She was coming via Madrid. Georgia strolled out through passport control, looking, as she always did, a miracle of understated elegance. She was wearing slim jeans, cowboy boots, a fringed alpaca jacket, and a pearl-white polo-neck sweater. Her nut-brown hair was shoulder-length, drawn back at the neck with a thin band. Her hair shone, her eyes sparkled. She looked like $1 million and totally in control of her world. "Who travels for 24 hours in a white polo neck?" said Lottie in awe. "She changed in the ladies after she landed," said Bella, who had travelled with her grandmother and knew her strategy. They surged forward and embraced her. "You look wonderful," Georgia told them both impartially. Bella took charge of her case and led the way to the car park. "Did you have a good flight?" Her grandmother was wheeling the smallest possible carry-on case. "I had a good book. The flight passed." She shrugged. "Now tell me about you two. Bella has a young man and a new job, I know. Lottie, what about you? Still enjoying London?" Most of the traffic had gone by the time they got onto the M3, so they had a straight run in a light grey drizzle, with Lottie talking about her job very amusingly, and Georgia asking all the right questions, just as she always did in her soft southern drawl. They delivered Lottie to the Hendreds, had a cup of tea and a mince pie there, and drove on to Janet and Kevin's. "Now," said Georgia, as Bella pulled out of Hendred's Drive, "tell me about him. I can't get any sense out of either of your parents. How long have you known him?" "Not long at all." Bella gave her a rapid outline of events to date. No, you're right. That's fast." It was interesting. When she was thinking aloud, Georgia's southern drawl became more pronounced. It was, decided Bella, very attractive, calm and somehow poised. "I wish I were poised," she said involuntarily. Her grandmother looked at her quickly. "That's an interesting word. Does he make you feel inadequate? Socially, maybe?" He doesn't, but, well," she described the New Year's briefing package. Georgia's sculpted lips tightened perceptibly. How discourteous. "Who did you say this person is?" "Lady Pansy. She's Queen Jane's right-hand woman, as far as I can see. Been with her forever." Georgia drummed her fingers thoughtfully. "That suggests she has no life of her own," she drawled. "You need to watch these loyal retainers. They can become very gothic in their devotion." Bella laughed heartily. "Not Lady Pansy. If she weren't so elegant, you'd say she was a horse." "Horses are very gothic," said Georgia obstinately. "You watch her, and watch your back around her." Of course, she didn't say any of that in front of Janet and Kevin. Georgia's idea of good behaviour demanded a high degree of forbearance, as well as refraining from giving advice in public, or arguing either. So when Janet started to complain about Finn baiting the newspapers with his antipathy to the monarch, Georgia just smiled faintly and drifted away to somewhere more congenial. But she did take Bella on one side and say, "Are you really worried about spending the new year with Richard's family?" "No." But in the end it all poured out. The dancing by numbers Bella had never done before, the striped horror, the pumps. Georgia laughed. "My dear child, you just need a posh frock." "I've got one," said Bella gloomily. "And how?" "No, one you like and feel comfortable in. Look, you may not care for the idea, but I have a lot of my own frocks stored in London. We still just about made a debut in my day. Why don't we see if there's anything that..." Sorry, I think there's a couple of mistakes in the PDF. Sometimes it's throwing me off here. Why don't we see if there's anything that you find suitable among them? We're quite similar. I think the size will be about right. They may be a little bit short, but if you've complicated dancing to face, that is hardly a fault. Bella agreed, but without much hope. She spent an edgy Christmas, sustained mainly by Richard's phone calls from various places in the world where British forces were serving. No wonder Ian had kept the diary from her, thought Bella, watching the TV news to see Richard jump lightly from a helicopter onto the deck of an aircraft carrier. He looked instantly at home, eager and friendly, and always a concerned, good listener. Oh, she did love him. She looked up suddenly and found her grandmother's eyes on her. Georgia said nothing, just inclined her elegant head. But Bella felt as if she had been given her grandmother's blessing. She hugged herself. "You'll love him," she said, suddenly certain that she was right. "I probably will, dear. As I said, you and I are very alike." Richard met Bella at the station on New Year's Eve. Just him. No security officer, no press advisor. The station master touched his cap in a friendly way and wished them both Happy New Year, and Richard drove the big four-way drive off up into the hills, along an unmade track to the house. "Best view," he said, waving at folds of snow-covered hills to his left, and a sparkling, darting brook in the white valley below them. "It's gorgeous," Bella said truthfully. "But freezing. Hope you brought plenty of warm clothes." "Yes, I came prepared." Conscious of Georgia's alternative posh frock in her suitcase, Bella said carefully, "What will people wear to the ball tonight?" Richard glanced down at her. "Yes, okay. Don't rub it in. I'll be prancing around in a kilt, with a lace jabot and a velvet jacket. And so will all the other guys. I don't get a vote." She was taken aback. "No, really? You mean I get to see your knees?" His eyes glinted. "You've seen my knees, you baggage. Not in public. Not to really stand back and admire them." She let herself dwell on the picture with pleasure for a moment, then said, "No, actually, what I meant was the ladies." He shrugged. "It's easier for them. They wear their usual rig, with mountaineers' underwear underneath to keep them warm, of course." "Their usual rig?" "Yes. Why?" he said, puzzled. She thought of the striped horror. Puffed sleeves, like a Michelin man's biceps, were nobody's idea of normal. "I think I may have got the wrong end of the stick," she said diplomatically. "Look, do me a favour. I've borrowed a dress. Well, actually, like your boat, it's more sort of inherited. Will you come and give me your opinion on it before we have to join the party?" Richard agreed with enthusiasm. And later, he took one look at her in a Grace Kelly number with a soft skirt of misty grey silk crepe and... very elegant. So that was all right. At least it would be until Lady Pansy caught sight of it. Her niece, the Honourable Chloe, was among the guests as well. It would be interesting, thought Bella with a touch of cattiness, to see whether Chloe's gown was out of the school of striped horror. Richard took her down to the drawing room at Drummond House at the cocktail hour. There was a handsome fire blazing in the great hearth, but a combination of stone walls and ill-fitting windows meant that the warmth did not permeate very far into the room. The Queen, greeting Bella kindly, seemed not to notice that she had failed to curtsy. Prince George, a taller, gawkier version of Richard, flapped a hand in greeting. "Hi, the sooner the physical jerks start, the sooner the sound of chattering teeth will die away." A steward offered her a tray. Richard inspected it and explained its contents. "You can have one of 3 sorts of malt whisky, or a concoction of blended Scotch, amaretto and Cointreau, which George invented last year. I don't advise it." "I call it Drummond Hell," Prince George told her proudly. He had the reputation of being a bit of a hell-raiser, and Bella had been wary of meeting him, but she found she liked him. It was impossible not to. He was a Labrador puppy in human form. Bella took one of the glasses, with a word of thanks, and they moved further into the drawing room. As soon as they were out of earshot of the Queen, she hissed, "I hate whiskey." "Don't worry, I'll drink it." "And I forgot to curtsy to your mother." "She'll get over it." "But Lady Pansy won't. She looked really disappointed. You know, more in sorrow than in anger." "Pansy's an old fart," he said brutally. "Don't worry about it. Lots of people don't curtsy these days." "I have tried, honest, but I just can't get the hang of it." "No sweat. When you have to, it will come naturally." Bella was alarmed. "When I have to? What do you mean, have to? You just said lots of people don't." Richard looked mischievous. "Wait and see." Bella looked round the room. There was a smattering of dinner jackets, but the men were mostly in kilts, worn with crisp white shirts, a frilled or lacy stock, and a waisted black velvet jacket with gold buttons. They looked very fine. The women were more varied in their dress. If they had had the same instructions as Bella, none of them had resorted to stiff, shiny satin and puffed sleeves. Some of the older ladies were wearing long white gloves above the elbow. The cannier ones kept pashminas to hand. Bella saw that Lady Pansy herself was in a stiff violet crinoline that she had probably been wearing in the 80s. "No black permitted," Bella remembered from Lady Pansy's notes. Low necklines discouraged, and sleeves were obligatory. Lottie had howled with laughter. "Where do you think they are? In a cathedral?" she'd said. But now, looking at one of her fellow first-timers who had ignored the spirit of the notes and opted for festive décolletage, Bella felt sorry for the woman. Diamonds and goose flesh was not a good look. She did not have long to pity her, however. There were 3 mighty raps at the door, followed by an ear-splitting noise like an elephant farting. Then the doors were flung open, and in marched a piper, kilt swinging. At once there was a scramble to fall in behind him. George hissed in her ear, "We all march round the room after him and divide so women go to the left and men to the right. Then we go down either side of the room and meet him in front of the doors and join up with a partner and go into a grand march." The name was vaguely familiar, but that was all. "Sorry, my mind's a blank." Don't worry about it. It's dead easy. Just do what everyone else does. All you need to do is make sure that nobody queue jumps when you go to meet your partner. It's a favourite trick." I didn't realise it was so competitive. "Blood on the floor," said George cheerfully. "Keep your eye on Richard. You may need to make a grab." And he waved cheerily as he peeled off in the other direction. "I will." Bella nearly lost him, though, when Chloe, in a figure-hugging, lacy dress that was only just this side of decent, darted in front of her at the last moment, just as Bella was about to step out in front of the big doors to meet him. "Excuse me," she said in a breathy little girl voice that exactly matched her wide-eyed stare. But Richard was too quick for her. With a nifty, soft-shoe shuffle that Fred Astaire would not have been ashamed of, he slid momentarily out of his line and in again behind a grey-haired man who at once stepped up to the place in front of the doors. The Honourable Chloe had no choice. She gave the elderly party her hand, and they marched off together down the middle of the drawing-room, now cleared of furniture. As they met and followed, Richard took Bella's hand and laid it gently on his velvet-jacketed arm. "50 in love to us," he murmured. A terrible desire to giggle took hold of her as she marched solemnly down the freezing cold, over-furnished room and round the edge again to join up in fours. The servants just about managed to clear a wide enough path through the furniture for the column of 4 to pass, but Bella had begun to see what was going to happen next, and there was no way they were going to be able to march down that room 8 abreast. "Someone's going to get impaled on a suit of armour," she said, half fascinated, half appalled. Richard kept a straight face. It has been known. It is rumoured that someone forgot to clear away the piano one year, and my Uncle Leopold marched straight over it, dragging his partner after him. Bella folded her lips tightly together. Her shoulders were starting to shake. "Oh, God, I'm not going to be able to get through this lunacy without disgracing myself," she thought. And then they did all join up in an 8, and the lady at one end of the line and the man at the other did indeed have to vault over occasional tables and slalom round chairs. Above the clatter of falling objects, the art and cries of anguish from those who had stubbed their toes, the king's voice could be heard saying testily, keep time, damn you!" Richard bent his head sideways. "Don't worry, he's almost certainly talking to the piper rather than my mother," he confided in a whisper. Bella's ribs ached. She moaned. Suppressing laughter was becoming agony for her. "You're a swine," she said conversationally, keeping her bright smile in place. "Yeah, but I know how to do this stuff. So," he went into a mobster voice, "you need me, baby?" That was when the double doors at the far end were flung wide and they progressed, 8 by 8, into what Bella could only describe as a baronial hall. High ceiling, banners, serfs gathered round the walls watching. The lot. She gasped and would have stopped dead, but for the momentum of the group which kept surging forward. She stumbled, but Richard and George between them half lifted her off her feet, keeping her upright and moving until she had regained her balance. Keep up, muttered Prince George, in a very good imitation of the king. Bella gave a strangled gulp and her ribs started to hurt again. The piper got to the far end of the hall and turned to face them. The 8s all peeled off and formed squares, and the serfs, who now she came to look were just as well dressed as the royal party, bundled onto the floor too. The piper started to tap his foot. You could feel the whole room counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and they were off, circling round to the right and then back, hell for leather, like a cavalry charge. Richard said over his shoulder, "Next, stick out your right hand, left round my waist. You're going round in a star with the other ladies." Bella was still trying to assimilate this when he put his arm round her waist, flung her into the circle, and was galloping off round again. And when they completed the circuit, he switched places with her, and they went back and around the other way. Her head started to spin. It seemed as if every time she learned how to do a move and started to enjoy herself, the damn dance did something different, and did it fast. There was a good bit in the middle where you were allowed to stand still while other people did their thing, but sometimes you had to do your thing, and that was torture. Richard was really good at sending Bella off into the fray with a gentle push in the small of the back, but the other people in the set all seemed to know what they were doing, and helped too, reaching out a hand to steer her when it was feasible, giving her good clear hand signals when it wasn't. The music finally came to an end on a long chord, and she and Richard were bowing to each other. "Curtsy," he mouthed. "What?" But she looked sideways and saw what the other women across the set were doing. Bella copied them, and didn't wobble too much at all. "I told you it would come naturally," said Richard smugly, taking her hand as she rose out of the curtsy. He tucked it under the crook of his arm. "I'm going to have to do lots of duty dances, but I've lined up friends and experts to take you through when I can't dance with you. Have you got your dance card?" "A dance card? I'm supposed to have a dance card?" Bella shook her head, caught between laughter and dismay. "What is this? Gone with the Wind? Georgia won't believe it when I tell her. Pansy was supposed to have sent it to you. It has the list of dances in it and a small pencil." "Well, she sent me a paper mountain, but I don't remember a dance card." "Not a problem. There will be spares." He turned to his brother. "George, would you—" "I'm on it." George disappeared into the throng like an eel, and returned with the prize. Richard squiggled his distinctive black R beside several dances, and made sure that her other partners were both kind and expert. "You can dance with George," he instructed, "but not in the Duke of Perth when he goes crazy, or the Irish Rover because he always gets lost." George agreed cheerfully. He didn't seem worried. "Everyone has one dance that brings them to their knees. Actually, that's half the fun of reels. The catastrophes." Richard sighed. "See what I mean? Dance with him if you must, but watch yourself." But it wasn't George who brought about the disaster. That was all Bella's own fault. Her partners, briefed by Richard, got her through the figures by a combination of timely, crisp instruction and sheer muscle power. She danced a thing called Posty's Jig with a gentle-faced, middle-aged man who was clearly an expert. "It's an interesting dance." "Oh," he told her in a soft Highland accent. "Like a piece of paper that keeps being folded in on itself. 2 couples dance at the same time, while the other 4 dancers stand still at the corners and help them round. Very pleasing when it's well performed. It has balance." Good," said Bella doubtfully. She just wanted to scramble through it without falling flat on her face or poking someone's eye out, but she didn't tell her kindly partner that. And they would have been fine, she was sure, If they had joined one of the friendly sets she had been dancing in up until then, where the other dancers were happy to give her an informal push in the right direction. But unfortunately, she and her gentle partner were summoned to join the Queen's set, in which Lady Pansy was also dancing. And Lady Pansy tried to help by shouting instructions at Bella across the set. Sometimes these conflicted with her partners. It was a nightmare, with Bella turning right when she should have gone left, blundering too far down the set, grabbing the hand of the wrong man when they came to turn in the middle. And then real disaster struck. They were dancing in the middle of the set, towards the Queen and her partner in full regimentals. One couple had to make an arch, one had to go under it. "If you're going up the set, you put your arms up," her kind partner whispered. But Bella had no idea which direction was up. She thought she felt a tug and started to raise her arm, but Lady Pansy, standing at the top left-hand corner of the set, frowned and shook her head. So Bella snatched her hand back again. Just as the Queen and her soldier lowered their heads to come through the arch they were expecting. Well, Bella recovered, but not fast enough. The Queen's priceless tiara slid over one ear and started to fall. It lasted only a moment, less than a bar of music. Bella tried to look over her shoulder, but her partner forced her to dance on. She did everyone else, including the Queen, who, for the rest of the dance, held her tiara in place with the hand that she should have been giving to other dancers. Lady Pansy looked as if she would cry. Afterwards, everyone apologized. The Highlander was mortified. He could not understand it. Nothing like that had ever happened to him on the dance floor before. He begged the Queen's pardon again and again. Bella felt like a murderer. Queen Jane, of course, could not have been nicer. "These things happen, Henry. It's not the end of the world." And to Bella, "My dear, it couldn't matter less. Poste is always fast and furious. At least no one was hurt." Which didn't make Bella feel any better. Prince George, when he heard, went into mourning. "You knocked Mother's crown off and I missed it? Not even a photograph? Since Father went and banned phones? Bugger, life's unfair." The Queen reattached her tiara and they danced for an hour and a half. Then dinner was served. The serfs at long trestles, which were put up in the baronial hall, the royal party in the dining room. Formal dinner with the King and Queen was not fun. There were rules about when you could eat and when you had to stop. Twice Bella had her plate whisked away from under her nose before she had finished. Practiced courtiers like Lady Pansy, she realized, hoovered their food in as soon as possible to avoid exactly that. "You could have warned me," she said to Richard on her left. He grinned, unrepentant. "My father hates long meals. He wants to get this over with and go back to his engines. You watch. He'll be out of the hall at midnight plus a nanosecond." "Really?" "Maybe not quite a nanosecond. We all have to sing Auld Lang Syne and give 3 cheers for the king. But after that, he legs it as fast as he can." "So the party ends at midnight?" He looked startled. "In practice, the king goes, the party gets going. 2 parties, usually. The reeling will carry on till dawn, but there's an alternative gig in one of the barns for anyone under 30. George is usually involved. Dodgy lighting, crazy music, that sort of thing. Do you want to go? Bella smiled straight into his eyes. Do you want to? Maybe for half an hour or so, he said. His voice suddenly thickened. He took her hand under the table and held it so hard she could feel the pulse in his fingers. She said softly, "Any chance of seeing you tonight?" He looked so astonished that she caught herself saying, "No, of course not. I'm sorry. Silly thing to say. Not under your parents' roof. Not with all those rules about when and where you can walk in the corridors." "What do you think all those rules are about, for God's sake?" Tradition?" "Yup. A tradition that grew up so that everyone could get back to the right bedroom in the morning without being seen by anyone who could tell on them." "What?" "Think about it. You spend the night with the lady of your heart. She may or may not be married. But anyway, you shouldn't be there. So what happens if someone sees you creeping back to your own room? Well, they shouldn't be there either. So it's mutual blackmail. Works like a dream." "You're not serious." "Trust me. No servant will set foot above the ground floor until 8 o'clock on express orders. Apparently, in my grandfather's heyday, it could get like the rush hour. Mind you, he had a particularly libidinous set of friends." Bella shook her head. "So, all these rules are just so you can behave disgracefully?" "Behave disgracefully and not get found out, yes." She looked severe. "It's not very honest. Not sure I approve." His eyes glinted. "Tell me that and I'll go back to my own room, I promise." He silenced her by carrying their clasped hands to his lips and feathering a quick kiss along the knuckles of hers before tucking them back under the table again. Bella gasped. But the servants were removing the plates, and she felt someone's eyes on her. When she looked up, she saw Chloe Linnane staring down the table at her with an expression almost of hatred. It was so unexpected that Bella blinked. Yet when she looked again, the previous ditzy, vague expression was back. It was unsettling. At a signal from the Queen, the ladies retired. Bella would have missed it if Richard hadn't hissed, "Off you go. Follow my leader." In the boudoir set aside for the female guests, Lady Pansy came up to Bella. "I see you found a different dress." She murmured something about the difficulties of packing when you were coming by train. Lady Pansy gave her a sweet smile that made her eyes glisten like flaming arrows. "I do hope you're enjoying yourself, dear. Just a word to the wise." "Yes? Do be careful not to put yourself forward too much. This is the big event of the year for these people. They look forward to it for 12 months. The young girls, and not just the young ones," she tittered in a way that Bella suddenly found rather unpleasant, "all hope to dance with the Prince of Wales, like a fairy tale, something to tell the children. It would be very selfish of you to monopolize him and spoil their evening." Bella was not going to tell her that it was Richard who had decided how many times they would dance together. "Thank you, I'll remember," she said tonelessly. "I was sure you would," said Lady Pansy's violet crinoline. Sorry, and Lady Pansy's violet crinoline bobbed away. Bella uncurled her fingers. Lady Pansy was seriously starting to get on her tits. Oh, Lord, she's the Queen's best friend, and I want to slap the woman, Bella thought ruefully. The rest of the evening passed as Richard had predicted. At 2 minutes to midnight, the band finished a lively reel, and someone switched on the radio. People began to look round for the person they wanted to be with at the turn of the year. The Queen, Bella saw, went to the King's side. George had acquired a stunning red head, and Eleanor... But then Bella saw Richard powering his way towards her through the crowd and forgot Princess Eleanor and everyone else but her own lover. He was standing in front of her. They smiled into each other's eyes. There might have been no one else there. The room fell silent. The countdown started. 1, 2, 3. Everyone joined in, even the King. The Queen, Bella saw, was watching her and Richard. She looked unhappy. 7, 8, 9. George had produced squeakers and was passing them round his immediate neighbours with an evil grin. 10! There was the first boom from Big Ben. Bella flung her arms round Richard's neck and kissed him fiercely. She didn't stop kissing him until the final boom was dying away. She fell back, startled by her own intensity. The light in his eyes made him almost unrecognizable. "Oh, God, I love you," she said under her breath, more to herself than to him. His hands tightened on her waist. "Never mind about that damned bop in the barn. I need to see you alone. Okay?" "Yes," she said, shivering for the first time that evening. And not from cold. George's squeakers went off in an appalling chorus. Even people inured to the drone of the bagpipes clapped their hands over their ears. "Happy New Year," everyone was saying to everyone else. "Happy New Year." There was a lot of kissing. As Lady Pansy had warned, Richard came in for a good deal of it from female tenants of all ages, and Bella saw Chloe Linnane into the bargain. "Auld Lang Syne," cried the King, seizing a couple of hands and backing against the wall with his newly acquired partners. The Queen was not one of them. There was even a protocol to Auld Lang Syne, Bella found. She was used to a cheerful, drunken shambles, with people hanging on to the person next to them and then dividing into the middle cheering. In Drummond House, you sang the first verse. There are verses, she thought, standing upright with your hands by your sides. It was only the second verse. And there's a hand, my trusty fiere, and gie's a hand of thine, that you were actually licensed to take hands. She began to long for a good old-fashioned bop where you could do anything you wanted, with your own hands or anyone else's. The singing done, everyone kissed some more, though more sedately. They cheered the King. The King waved a gracious hand and bolted for home. The Queen did not go with him. "Uh-oh," said Richard. "Not good. Will you be okay? I need to dance with my mother. Then we're going to be on our own way and nobody's going to stop us." He was gone for one dance only. When it was over, Bella saw him take his mother's hand. He seemed to be reassuring her. Then she saw a courtier hovering and turned away, dismissing her son. Richard came back to Bella. Ready to return to the 21st century now? She looked at him. Is your mother okay? You've got sharp eyes. He was rueful. We had a slight difference of opinion, that's all. And it's settled? She's cool. Now, tell me, do you really want to go and dance in George's barn? She shook her head. Then come on. Let's go sort out the rest of our lives. Thank you for listening. That is the end of chapter 14 of Sophie Page's To Marry a Prince. Thank you so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed chapter 14. Sorry for the mistakes here and there. I was bumbling quite a lot today. I'm sorry about that. It just took me a little time to get warmed up. Yeah, it's one of those things. Sometimes when I don't pre-read the chapters or skim through the chapters, it still goes really, really smoothly and it has a nice sort of natural feel to it. And then sometimes it's quite tricky. I guess it just depends on your brain on the day, or how complex the chapter is, or who knows what. But I really, 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 really hope you still enjoyed it. I did my best. And I have noticed, this is not just an excuse, I have noticed here and there a few mistakes in the PDF. You do get that with PDFs sometimes. It can be because perhaps they're an unofficial PDF that someone has actually typed up themselves or copied from some source. I don't know if there's some sort of like semi-automated way that you can copy books into PDFs using some sort of like text recognition software or something. Because I've noticed it in the past with an old PDF of the Lord of the Rings that I don't use anymore. I went hunting for a different one, and a couple of other books where sometimes it's not that there's a word missing. Like today, there was at least one time where there was a word missing. But sometimes you might get a word spelt with two letters that sort of look the same as one letter. So if a C and an L can be typed as a capital D, for example, or the other way around. Like, sorry, as a small case, as a lowercase d. I've noticed this. Or like a lowercase d gets split into a C and an L, for example. So I'm guessing there's some sort of like semi-automated software or something that can convert one format into another format, and sometimes it makes errors, and then unless it's checked or whatever, it can get missed. But yeah, with this PDF, I've noticed mistakes here and there in the text. Most of the little bumbles are just my own errors. But sometimes it's that there's a word missing, or that there's a letter wrong here and there or something, and it can really catch me out. It got me good today. But yes, hope that was a nice listen all the same. And let me just skim back through the chat a little bit. I feel like there's been a couple of extra book clubber appearances. You've been very chatty today. Gosh, that is going to take me forever to go through if I try and get up to date. I don't think I can do that, or I'm going to have to spend about 20 minutes going through the chat, and then I'm going to get really, really, really behind with the current stuff. So I'll have to check through here later. But hope you've been enjoying it. Hope you've had a nice chat among yourselves. But welcome to Katie Bug. Really nice to see you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I thought I could at least do a roll call shout out of any new book clubbers that have joined. Student Contier Abbey has also joined. Clearly a big fan. Thank you very much for being here, student. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hope you've been enjoying it. Anybody else new to the chat whilst I've been reading away for the last hour? That was quite a long one. Every now and then there is like maybe like a 50-minute or even a 60-minute, I think, chapter of Prince, and I think that must have been at least 50, mustn't it? It was quite long. I think it was Kim that was saying, I'm surprised you've not had to take a glass of water. Yeah, sometimes in the past with To Marry a Prince, I have had a break halfway through. But I really do like the continuity, the flow. For you guys as much as anything, you know, just to have that completely unbroken chapter with no interruptions. So, yeah, I was thirsty throughout, and when you can hear yourself making a couple of mistakes and things, it starts spinning. You know, you're thinking like, maybe I should find somewhere to break, but I was enjoying it, and I think I actually warmed up more as the chapter went on, and wanted to keep that flow. But I will have a good drink in a minute. I'm sure there was a couple more names here. I know I saw one further down. Yeah, Freewheeling Skeptic is here. Welcome to you. Thanks for joining. Nice to see you. And Kashena as well. I knew I'd seen somebody else popping in. Thanks very much for the praise as well. Nice to see you. Yeah, Jurassic Park. I know. I really, really, really need to get back to Jurassic Park. I've got a few things spinning at the moment. Dracula, I've decided, is my number one priority. I've mentioned this a bunch of times. I mean, for the regular recorded versions, my regular videos, not the live streams. So Dracula is number one focus. I had been thinking of doing the second book of Narnia, but with this whole request by the C.S. Lewis Company to remove that complete audiobook from YouTube, that's not looking likely. Unfortunately, we'll have to see how things go. But Jurassic Park, I'm sure that's one of those that could cause some issues with copyright. I've always been aware of that, actually, or been aware of that for a long time anyway, as I did start that a very, very long time ago. But yeah, we'll see. It's such a good book, and a lot of you were really, really enjoying it. So I just got a little bit wobbled and worried by the copyright situation. As I said, I started that must be coming up to 2 years ago now or something crazy. But I've just had so many issues with copyright, and because that is a relatively modern book, I've always been a little bit worried about it. But we'll see. Like, maybe I can do some private sharing of Jurassic Park through Patreon or something. But leave it with me. I'm really aware that that is one of those plates that I would like to start spinning again at some point. What else is going on in the chat? Oh yeah, don't you worry about chatting in the chat. That's what the chat's there for. Yeah, hi, Free Willing Skeptic. Nice to see you. Oh, you were chatting about tattoos. I purposely didn't focus too much because I knew I was going to take a very, 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 very long time to get through that. You're getting amused by my hand gestures. Um, yeah, that was also a thing, Orange. There was one time where there was a quotation mark on something that wasn't speech either. So I was like looking for which character voice it was going to be, and it wasn't. It was narration. So I was hesitating for a second. I don't even know if I started it in the wrong way. I don't think so. I think I just hesitated there. But yeah, there's all sorts of little errors that can creep in. And that's part of the live reading experience as well, I suppose, especially if I don't go through the chapter beforehand. Shannon is a saying I am a part Italiano. I'm a part Italiano. I know it, Shannon. It's nice to gesticulate sometimes. You know, when you're just a face on screen, it gets a bit boring, like just being a head. So I think this is why sometimes the hands get involved as well. Oh, welcome to Colour Brights as well. For anybody else who's popping into the stream, I'm just having a little breather because I've just done about an hour, like 50 minutes or more of live reading. So I'm just relaxing a little bit and catching up with the chat if you're wondering why I'm just sat here. But welcome to Colour Brights. Yeah, you were just asking, have I started reading? Yeah, we've just had chapter 14 of To Marry a Prince. So you have missed that one, unfortunately, but it'll be in the archive. You can always watch the stream afterwards, and please do. And please remember those thumbs up, Fox fans. I do appreciate the thumbs up on the stream and on that recorded archive video as well. It's really, really, really nice. And thanks so much to those of you that have been leaving a few comments on the past streams over the last couple of weeks as well. I saw Mango and Lynette particularly. I think there might have been a couple of others as well. You just leaving your feelings and some nice praise and all the rest on those last 7 streams that we've had over the last couple of weeks. So thank you very much. The comments are very, very much appreciated as always. And yeah, I was going to put it to the vote. So I was sort of prepared for the Witches and expecting the Witches to be very popular. Teresa was asking for some more To Marry a Prince. I won't be doing another To Marry a Prince chapter today. I like to have a little bit of variety and everything appeal to all sorts of listeners out there. But To Marry a Prince will be back soon. I've been, pretty regular with To Marry a Prince over the last couple of weeks. So we'll be having another one probably not tomorrow, just so I can keep some progress with some other stories as well. But probably Wednesday. We'll see how it goes. But I would definitely like 1 or 2 more To Marry a Prince chapters this week. That would be really nice. And a lot of you are certainly enjoying the stories. So, what was that you were chatting about? But please, please, please do let me know what you would like to hear next. So the basic options are The Witches, which like I said, I was sort of guessing it would be voted for, but who knows? The Witches, 1984. We had the first chapter split over 2 streams last week. I really enjoyed it. We've got Pride and Prejudice, this illustrated version. We had chapters 1, 2, and 3 on one of the streams a couple of weeks ago. or James Herriot's If Only They Could Talk. And we've had the first few chapters over the last couple of weeks as well. There are other things I could read, of course. There are other things we've started at times on the book club. There are little guest appearances of things that I like to play around with. The Hobbit's always a favourite of mine. I really enjoy reading it. And there's other things too. But please vote now or forever hold your pizza. I can time you with this rather interesting little sand timer, which is Maria's. And see if you can see, it's actually floating upwards. It's rather beautiful. Or, I don't know if beautiful is the word I would use. Quirky, but rather pretty. So as the sand falls, the buoyancy changes and the little sand timer floats to the top. So get voting. The sands of time are falling. Trying to see what you're voting for. Yeah, all the other books get lots of rotation, and Prince has been the most rotated book at the moment, apart from The Witches. So it's the second most rotated book over the last 3 weeks. Let's see what is voted for. Yeah, because we've had chapter 11, 12, 13 and 14. So we've had 4 To Marry a Prince chapters in 2 weeks and a day. So it's pretty good progress. And they're obviously very long chapters as well compared to some stories. Depending on, well, some are sort of average and then some are a little bit longer than average. 1984 is definitely a long chapter book. The sands have ceased. So no more votes will be counted. Aussie Juzz's cry of witches is the last vote to be counted. And let me see what you've been saying. Look at some of you voting multiple times. Very, very, very naughty behaviour. Unacceptable. Let's see. You're really dropping the spoilers there, Teresa. I didn't think you would want to be spoiling the story. Calm yourself. Calm yourself. But Shannon says witches and Mango says witches. I think that's a vote for James Herriot by Freewheeling Skeptic. Otherwise, it's just a what is James Herriot? Because you say James Herriot ? Exclamation mark. Yeah, I've noticed that too, Lynette. You're saying how quiet it goes when I'm reading The Witches. I've noticed this myself, and then as soon as I finish and ask how it's gone, then the chat like goes. Brrr. So yeah, I think it is just because you're very focused. A couple of people have said that you get entranced. So Heather goes 1984. Colour Bright says Pride and Prejudice. Olivia says James Herriot or doesn't really care, you love them all. Miss Bookworm Lynette says Witches. So yeah, Freewheeling Skeptic also says James Herriot, so that's 2 for James Herriot. Kimmy's off to catch up on The Witches. Is this a double vote here? Yep, Shannon double voting. 5 points from Hufflepuff. Colour Brights, You're Torn, Pride and Prejudice, and Witches. Mabel's pops back in. Claire says Witches. Katie says Witches. I think that's the first time. Orange is asking about If Only They Could Talk, which is the James Herriot story about the animals and the vets in Yorkshire. And welcome to Minx Capinx Forever. Welcome to the stream. You're saying Witches or Harry Potter? Yeah, you know I would like to read the Harry Potter books. We've already read 3 1/4 Harry Potter books, but unfortunately we've had all sorts of problems there. But I will take your vote for the Witches. More double voting. Elle says, and welcome Elle as well, nice to see you. Elle says Witches or P&P. Heather's getting another vote out there for 1984, trying to get some support. Yeah, I have got a list, technically, Shannon, of all the books I've started, but I've not updated it for a long time. On my main sort of like welcome page on Patreon, I used to have the library of things that I've started and finished listed there. But when all the Harry Potter stuff was going down, I moved that into a post. Maybe I should make that the pinned top post. Like when I finally get these stickers finished, those like giveaway gift stickers finished. So like I said, I won't go into all that just now, but like I said, I got about half of them made, like designed and made and uploaded to Redbubble and ordered, but the other half I didn't get round to, got distracted by other things, and somehow it seems like I've deleted the Excel folder with all that information, so I need to go through and get that finished at some point. But maybe when I've got that finished, I can swap the pinned post on Patreon, which is currently about the whole sticker giveaway thing, and maybe replace that with the library, and then we could use that pinned post on Patreon perhaps as the library. Yeah, I was keeping up to date with it for at least 18 months, if not a couple of years, and then I got behind. I'm not sure where else I could keep the library in sort of like a useful public place, but I think it is nice to have a list of everything. I used to have links in there as well, like for my old YouTube channels, that you could click the book on Patreon and it would take you over to YouTube, or it mentioned that it was in the Google Drive, in one of the Google Drive audio libraries or something like that. But yeah, it was with all the Harry Potter, the final like Harry Potter takedown blow that happened in June last year. I've not really kept up with it ever since then, because there was just so many changes and things that I was having to remove from Patreon and all sorts of stuff. So, but yeah, it's a nice idea, Shannon, something I've considered for a very long time. And like I said, I still technically have a library, it's just out of date now. Just looking at the votes again, those last few votes that were coming in. Lots of very naughty double voting going on there. Very naughty. But Witches does win it. No surprises there. It's been a lot of fun. Oh, and good night to Kim. You're heading off. It must be very late over east coast of Australia now. I've no idea what time it is over there, but it must be late. Thanks so much for being here, Kim. Good night to you. Hope to see you soon. Oh, and I hope I said hello to you, Laurie, earlier. I think I did. Can lose track sometimes. Oh, thanks, Katie, for trying to help me count up the votes. I really appreciate that, actually. That's a very nice idea. Oh, and welcome to Jane. You were voting for the James Herriot, If Only They Could Talk. Nice to see you in the stream, Jane. I hope I've not missed anybody today. And welcome to... Is it pronounced Isis Pierce? Welcome, welcome. Nice to see fresh names in the chat as well as the veterans amongst us. Oh, and Ghoulie Bull has made it as well. I was saying, I was giving you a shout out in the other stream because you'd joined me on Patreon. And I was saying, I'm not sure if it's Ghoulie Bull or Julie Bull, but welcome and thanks again for joining me on Patreon last week. It's absolutely wonderful. Really, really great. So we are going to crack on with the witches. I think there could possibly be a return again of the Grand High Witch. We will have to see. Excuse me. Oh right, okay. Were you keeping tally as well, Mango? Thank you. Thank you. Lynette's showing off with her melting pizza cheese. Oh, don't you worry, Jane. There's never any pressure to chat. You just enjoy the stream however you want to do it. Without causing too much chaos, of course. We don't mind a little bit of mischief, but try and keep it under control. Ah, as in like gullible. Okay, so gullible. Clever. Can see what you've done there. Okay, so I'm just going to drink this water. I'm just going to nip to the bathroom as well. And then I will be back. I will change the heading at the moment. I'll change the text first. And then I'm just going to have a 2-3-4 minute break. And I will be back. So I hope we're enjoying the stream today, whether you're just popping in now, or whether you've been here from the start, or whether you smashed in halfway through to marry a prince. Have I messed that up? Was it not like that? Was it just like this? I think it might have been. If it... it doesn't... It really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So we're starting with chapter 12, did I say? Yeah, 9, 10, 11, yeah, 12. Chapter 12. But it could be... It's definitely going to be at least chapter 12 and chapter 13. It could be chapter 14. We'll just have to see. Yeah, I think you get the message. Thinking, have I got space? No. It's okay. Or I can just do it like this. I'm sorry for messing around. I know this is tedious to watch. But like I said, I'm just going to have a super brief break, and I will be back. Still doesn't fit. That's annoying. Whoops. It's okay. It's okay. Oh, it looks a bit rubbish. I didn't see that. Okay. So, back soon. Yeah, I do well with it sometimes, Lynette. Sometimes I remember. Sometimes you have to shout at me a little bit. Yeah, hello to Logan. I don't think. Oh, did I shout you out earlier? Honestly, it's so easy to lose track. I'll just leave a little be right back as well, which I won't forget to remove, he says with such confidence. Okay, so back in 5, guys. Entertain yourself. I'll just refresh a little. And then it's time. It is time for the witches. Okay. That does not work. It is not problem. It is not problem. I will be back in no time at all. You will not even notice that I have gone. Hello. Are we behaving ourselves? Right. Removing the BRB notification. This is step 1 of returning to the live stream. Very important. Must be done. Do you understand? Are there any sniveling children in the stream? I can't smell dogs' droppings, but you never know. There may be filthy children among you. Oh, welcome to Danielle Forkin. Very nice to see you. Although, I think I spy a child on your picture that I'm not so happy about. But welcome, all the same. Welcome, I suppose. So, where are we? Here we are. Are we ready to continue, Fox fans? I hope so. By the looks of it, we'll be having 3 chapters, but there are quite a few pictures around, so it's not like there's tons, but there's a few pictures around, so I might have brief picture breaks in between. But let's get stuck in. Let's hope that you're not all having buffering issues. I hope it's just you, Claire. No offense, but I hope it's only your issue, and that the rest of you are having a smooth Foxy Book Club this afternoon. I'm ready to continue. So this is Roald Dahl's The Witches, Chapter 12. Metamorphosis. I remember thinking to myself, there is no escape for me now. Even if I make a run for it and manage to dodge the lot of them, I still won't get out because the doors are chained and locked. I'm finished. I'm done for. Oh, Grandmama, what are they going to do to me? I looked round, and I saw a hideous, painted and powdered witch's face staring down at me, and the face opened its mouth and yelled triumphantly, "It's here! Behind the screen! Come and get it!" The witch reached out a gloved hand and grabbed me by the hair, but I twisted free and jumped away. I ran, oh, how I ran! The sheer terror of it all put wings on my feet. I flew around the outside of the great ballroom, and not one of them had a chance of catching me. As I came level with the doors, I paused and tried to open them, but the big chain was on them, and they didn't even rattle. The witches were not bothering to chase me. They simply stood there in small groups, watching me, and knowing for certain that there was no way I could escape. Several of them were holding their noses with gloved fingers, and there were cries of,
"Pooh, what a stink! Oh, we can't stand this much longer."
"Catch it then, you idiots!" screamed the Grand High Witch from up on the platform. "Spread out in a line across the room and close in on it and grab it. Corner this filthy little gumboil and seize it and bring it up here to me." The witches spread out as they were told. They advanced towards me, some from one end, some from the other, and some came down the middle between the rows of empty chairs. They were bound to get me now. They had me cornered. From sheer and absolute terror, I began to scream. "Help!" I screamed, turning my head towards the doors in the hope that somebody outside might hear me. "Help! Help! Help! Get it!" shouted the Grand High Witch. "Grab hold of it! Stop it yelling!" They rushed at me then, and about 5 of them grabbed me by the arms and legs and lifted me clear off the ground. I went on screaming, but one of them clapped a gloved hand over my mouth, and that stopped me. "Bring it here!" shouted the Grand High Witch. "Bring the spying little worm up here to me." I was carried onto the platform with my arms and legs held tight by many hands, and I lay there suspended in the air, facing the ceiling. I saw the Grand High Witch standing over me, grinning at me in the most horrible way. She held up the small blue bottle of mouse maker, and she said, "Now, for a little medicine. Hold his nose to make him open his mouth." Strong fingers pinched my nose. I kept my mouth closed tight and held my breath. But I couldn't do it for long. My chest was bursting. I opened my mouth to get one big, quick breath of air, and as I did so, the Grand High Witch poured the entire contents of the little bottle down my throat. Oh, the pain and the fire. It felt as though a kettleful of boiling water had been poured into my mouth. My throat was going up in flames. Then very quickly the frightful burning, searing, scorching feeling started spreading down into my chest and into my tummy and on into my arms and legs and all over my body. I screamed and screamed, but once again the gloved hand was clapped over my lips. The next thing I felt was my skin beginning to tighten. How else can I describe it? It was quite literally a tightening and a shrinking of the skin all over my body, from the top of my head to the tips of my fingers to the end of my toes. I felt as though I was a balloon, and somebody was twisting the top of the balloon and twisting and twisting, and the balloon was getting smaller and smaller, and the skin was getting tighter and tighter, and soon it was going to burst. Then the squeezing began. This time I was inside a suit of iron, and somebody was turning a screw, and with each turn of the screw the iron suit became smaller and smaller, so that I was squeezed like an orange into a pulpy mess, with the juice running out of my sides. After that there came a fierce prickling sensation all over my skin, or what was left of my skin, as though tiny needles were forcing their way out through the surface of the skin from the inside, and this, I realized now, was the growing of the mouse fur. Far away in the distance, I heard the voice of the Grand High Witch yelling,
500 doses! This stinking little carbuncle has had 500 doses, and the alarm clock has been smashed, and now we are having instantaneous action.
I heard clapping and cheering, and I remember thinking, I am not myself any longer. I have gone clear out of my own skin. I noticed that the floor was only an inch from my nose. I noticed also a pair of little furry front paws resting on the floor. I was able to move those paws. They were mine. At that moment, I realized that I was not a little boy any longer. I was a mouse.
Now for the mouse trap!
I heard the Grand High Witch yelling.
I've got it right here. And here's a piece of cheese.
But I wasn't going to wait for that. I was off across the platform like a streak of lightning. I was astonished at my own speed. I leapt over Witch's feet right and left, and in no time at all I was down the steps and onto the floor of the ballroom itself and skittering off among the rows of chairs. What I especially liked was the fact that I made no sound at all as I ran. I was a swift and silent mover. And quite amazingly, the pain had all gone now. I was feeling quite remarkably well. It is not a bad thing after all, I thought to myself, to be tiny as well as speedy when there is a bunch of dangerous females after your blood. I selected the back leg of a chair and squeezed up against it and kept very still. In the distance, the Grand High Witch was shouting,
Leave the little stinkpot alone. It is not worth bothering about. It is only a mouse now. Somebody else will soon catch it. Let us get out of here. The meeting is over. Unlock the doors and shove off to the Sunshine Terrace to have tea with that idiotic manager.
Oh my. He is no longer a little boy, but a mouse. let's have a brief picture time from chapter 12. I hope you enjoyed it. Hello to Ada. It seems like you've been having some problems with the stream. I don't know if you've got yourself further back into the stream or if it's your connection. I'm not sure. I hope you figure it out. But yes, first picture from Metamorphosis is quite disturbing, really, I must say. So it's a group of the witches carrying the poor little boy, gloved hand over mouth, to be taken in front of the Grand High Witch. Note also, noses covered, nose holes blocked. They do not want to stink themselves with that smelly boy. Yeah, Quentin Blake has got a wonderful style, very unique. Oh, I'm sorry you're having problems with the chat, Ada. I hope that gets sorted out. Sounds like you're doing the right thing if you've been refreshing. Have you refreshed the whole stream? Have you tried refreshing the whole page? Or if you're on mobile, try going back to the home screen and actually closing the app and then going back in. I hope you get it fixed. And here's the second picture. The boy is off. See you later, suckers. So he seems to be coming to terms with the fact that he's a mouse pretty quick. And the Grand High Witch, as with Bruno, says, look, don't bother, don't waste your time trying to get him. But they seem to really struggle with this part of their plan. Seems to be inherently flawed. That they are not very good at catching the mice once they've turned the children into a mouse. So they have the child held, but then once he suddenly shrinks, they're struggling. He's off. Bye-bye. Feels like this could cause problems for the witches. Let's see. They don't seem to have a spell or something just to zap the mouse, stop it in its tracks. Maybe they don't want to waste the magic. Maybe they've got limited mana points and they want to store that up for later. I don't know, but it feels maybe they're just so cocky that they feel like it's beneath them to chase the mice. That's the work for the humans to do. They will, they probably get more satisfaction in thinking that the humans have been killing children without realizing than them bothering to waste their time. Because obviously they can kill children and do all sorts of weird things to children if they want to, but she's coming up with this special plan, so maybe it's a way of sort of keeping their hands clean in a way. We will see. But we will also see whether this is going to come back to bite them in the bottom, so to speak. Yeah, don't worry, Mango. It was a short chapter, but we're going to have a couple more. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say, Lynette, as well, with closing YouTube and coming back in if you're on the mobile version. I don't believe we know the boy's name. It's often like that. Yeah, in fact, if you go to the front, I thought I'd seen the little cast at the start. The boy is just called Boy. But this is a theme with Roald Dahl. I mean, one of his books is just called Boy, if I remember rightly. But, this is quite a common theme with many stories, that main characters don't even need to be named. If you've seen High Maintenance, for example, like that, the lead character there, I think he is just called, like, the dude or something like that. So like the unnamed aspect is sometimes part of the mystery. There's some films like this too. Maybe they conclude with the reveal of the name or who it is or something at some point. Okay, so we are going to continue with what is technically chapter 13. Yeah, you got my little mana points reference. Am I missing anything else? Oh yeah, I thought of that briefly, Olivia. I should have said that. I'm sorry. I guess that it wouldn't filter out so many things, but that was a good idea, Olivia. That you could be on top chat instead of live chat, and maybe for some reason it's filtering some of the messages. That's a good thought too. Let's see how Ada gets on. Yeah, that's what I was meaning, Lynette. Unless that's something separate. Because I think Boy is based on his life, but I don't think it's a regular autobiography. What does it say here? There's Boy Tales of Childhood, and then Boy and Going Solo. Boy and Going Solo, which are technically two separate books, but they're published together, if I remember rightly. I've definitely read those. Boy Tales of Childhood, I've not. But those are sort of semi-autobiographical, if I remember rightly. And then we've got the BFG, Charlie in the Chocolate Factory, Charlie in the Great Glass Elevator. There's a complete version of Charlie and Willy Wonka. Danny the Champion of the World, George's Marvelous Medicine, Going Solo, James and the Giant Peach, Matilda, all of these that I've read. And then for younger readers, The Enormous Crocodile, SEO Trot, which is tortoise backwards, which is kind of cute, Fantastic Mr. Fox, The Giraffe and the Pelly and Me, The Magic Finger and the Twits, all of which I've also read. And then there's a bunch of picture books and plays and teenage fiction. And the teenage fiction, I don't think I've read any of. There's one, The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar, which sounds familiar. I might have read some of that one. But the other ones, I don't think so. Some absolutely wonderful books there, though. Some big names in the literary world. Fantastic stuff. Very nostalgic for me. I grew up with all of these as a child. Okay, but let's crack on. Ugh. Oh, terrible of you, Lynette. You're going to have a hell of a fine. If you take that back now. They'll be like, that's £700, please. Okay. Are we ready for the next chapter? I hope so. Here we go. Bruno. I peeped round the leg of the chair and watched the hundreds of witches' feet walking out through the doors of the ballroom. When they had all gone and the place was absolutely silent, I began to move cautiously about on the floor. Suddenly, I remembered Bruno. He must surely be around here somewhere too. Bruno! I called out. I wasn't seriously expecting that I would be able to speak at all now that I had become a mouse, so I got the shock of my life when I heard my own voice, my own perfectly normal, rather loud voice, coming out of my tiny mouth. It was wonderful. I was thrilled. I tried it again. Bruno Jenkins? Where are you? I called out. If you can hear me, give a shout. My voice was exactly the same and just as loud as it had been when I was a boy. Hey there, Bruno Jenkins, I called. Where are you? There was no answer. I pottered about between the seat legs, trying to get used to being so close to the ground. I decided I rather liked it. You are probably wondering why I wasn't depressed at all. I found myself thinking, what's so wonderful about being a little boy anyway? Why is that necessarily any better than being a mouse? I know that mice get hunted and they sometimes get poisoned or caught in traps, but little boys sometimes get killed too. Little boys can be run over by motor cars, or they can die of some awful illness. Little boys have to go to school. Mice don't. Mice don't have to pass exams. Mice don't have to worry about money. Mice, as far as I can see, have only two enemies, humans and cats. My grandmother is a human, but I know for certain that she will always love me whoever I am. And she never, thank goodness, keeps a cat. When mice grow up, they don't ever have to go to war and fight against other mice. Mice, I felt pretty certain, all like each other. People don't. Yes, I told myself, I don't think it is at all bad a thing to be a mouse. I was wandering around the ballroom floor thinking about all this when I spotted another mouse. It was crouching on the floor, holding a piece of bread in its front paws and nibbling away at it with great gusto. It had to be Bruno. Hello, Bruno, I said. He glanced up at me for about 2 seconds, then went right on guzzling. What have you found? I asked him.
One of them dropped it, he answered. It's a fish paste sandwich. Pretty good.
He too spoke with a perfectly normal voice. One would have expected that a mouse, if it was going to talk at all, would do so with the smallest and squeakiest voice you could imagine. It was terribly funny to hear the voice of the rather loud-mouthed Bruno coming out of that tiny mouse's throat. Listen, Bruno, I said. Now that we are both mice, I think we ought to start thinking a bit about the future. He stopped eating and stared at me with small black eyes.
What do you mean, we? He said. The fact that you're a mouse has nothing to do with me.
But you're a mouse too, Bruno.
Don't be a fool, he said. I'm not a mouse.
I'm afraid you are, Bruno.
I most certainly am not, he shouted. Why are you insulting me? I haven't been rude to you. Why do you call me a mouse?
Don't you know what's happened to you? I said.
What on earth are you talking about?
Bruno said. I have to inform you, I said, that not very long ago the witches turned you into a mouse. Then they did it to me.
You're lying,
he cried.
I'm not a mouse.
If you hadn't been so busy guzzling that sandwich, I said, you would have noticed your hairy paws. Take a look at them. Bruno looked down at his paws. He jumped.
Good grief!
He cried.
I am a mouse! You wait till my father hears about this!
He may think it's an improvement, I said.
I don't want to be a mouse!
Bruno shouted, jumping up and down.
I refuse to be a mouse. I'm Bruno Jenkins!
There are worse things than being a mouse, I said. You can live in a hole.
I don't want to live in a hole,
Bruno shouted. And you can creep into the larder at night, I said, and nibble through all the packets of raisins and cornflakes and chocolate biscuits and everything else you can find. You can stay there all night, eating yourself silly. That's what mice do.
Now, that's a thought,
Bruno said, perking up a bit.
But how am I going to open the door of the fridge to get at the cold chicken and all the leftovers? That's something I do every evening at home.
Maybe your rich father will get you a special little mouse fridge all to yourself, I said. One that you can open.
You say a witch did this to me?
Bruno said.
Which witch?
The one who gave you the chocolate bar in the hotel lobby yesterday, I told him. Don't you remember?
The filthy old cow!
He shouted.
I'll get her for this. Where is she? Who is she?
Forget it, I said. You don't have a hope. Your biggest problem at the moment is your parents. How are they going to take this? Will they treat you with sympathy and kindness? Bruno considered this for a moment.
I think, he said, that my father is going to be a bit put out.
And your mother?
She's terrified of mice,
Bruno said. Then you've got a problem, haven't you?
Why only me?
He said.
What about you?
My grandmother will understand perfectly, I said. She knows all about witches. Bruno took another bite of his sandwich.
What do you suggest?
He said. I suggest we both go first of all and consult my grandmother, I said. She'll know exactly what to do. I moved towards the doors, which were standing open. Bruno, still grasping part of the sandwich in one paw, followed after me. When we get out into the corridor, I said, we're going to run like mad. Stick close to the wall all the way and follow me. Do not talk and do not let anyone see you. Don't forget that just about anyone who catches sight of you will try to kill you. I snatched the sandwich out of his paw and threw it away. Here goes, I said. Keep behind me. And there they go. It's going to be a risky journey, I think. Bruno looking... Come on, camera. Focus for me.
I don't want to focus on the picture. I'm a rubbish webcam. I don't want to. There we go. I suppose I can, just to look at the sandwich.
So, yes. Bruno looking longingly back at the bit of sandwich. And here is our boy finding Bruno, who doesn't realise that he's no longer quite Bruno, eating his sandwich. Gosh, this camera really struggles to focus on these pictures. But there they are. And also Bruno being forced. He's not the brightest spark, but being forced to realise that he is a mouse. I wanted to get a clear shot of that one, but it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, I warned you, did I not? I did warn you that some of these chapters were very short. This should come as no surprise. But I also said that because some of the chapters are very short and you've been behaving yourselves and that we've been really enjoying the witches, that I will do 3 chapters. And the good news is that this is quite a long one by witches standards anyway. See how this fits. Bum ba dum ba 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 da bum ba bum. Bum ba dum ba 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 da bum. Okay, so I really hope you enjoyed chapter 13, even though, yes, it was a short one. But we will continue. Any new book clubbers dropping into the chat? Oh, if he curses, take a shot. I didn't know that was a rule as well. Yeah, because it technically wasn't a mistake at the start. I was just giving myself long enough to figure out who was speaking and exactly how they were speaking. So I wanted to make sure that he wasn't speaking in a mouse voice, for example, because that was sort of what I was expecting. I couldn't remember how that worked out. So I was quickly reading the next paragraph to make sure what was going on. And that was actually the reveal that he's speaking in his normal voice. So that's why I was just hesitating near the start of the chapter there. Just a point, actually. Back in To Marry a Prince, the chapter that we had at the start of the stream, there was actually an F-bomb written in the text, but because this is a family-friendly stream 99% of the time, and you'd also been giving me the child warning before I started, so I, on the cuff, adapted it to being F off rather than what was written. So I'm just going to give myself a little pat on the back for that one. Oh, and welcome to Ms. Lee Knight popping in. Yeah, we've not had any 1984 today, but great to hear that you're looking forward to some more of that. Probably going to have some tomorrow, I would imagine. We've had a very lengthy chapter of To Marry a Prince. It was a nice read. And we're just about to have the 3rd chapter for the day of Roald Dahl's The Witches. And like I said, although chapters 12 and 13 were short ones, Chapter 14 is quite a lengthy one by Roald Dahl standards. So we're going to get settled in for that. Alright. Any new book clubbers popping in? I really hope you're enjoying the live reading. And do let me know what you're looking forward to. What you would like to see on tomorrow's book club. And like I said, obviously, do let me know in the live chat. That's great. But there's always a chance that things are going to get missed here. So if you really want to make your point known, and also if you want to just leave some feedback and encourage a little bit more chat among other people that are maybe watching the recorded version in the archive, so to speak, rather than being here live, then please do leave me a regular comment on the video as well. And like I said, there's no chance I can miss it if you leave me a regular comment as well. All right. Yeah, they say they don't really drink, Mabel, but you never know. You just never know. Okay, let's get comfortable for the last chapter of the day. Ugh. I hope you've enjoyed today's book club. I think it's been very nice. And like I said, do leave me a comment for what you're missing, what you would like to hear on tomorrow's book club. I will be back here maybe a little earlier than today. I'm not quite sure. Like I always say, if you want to know as early as I know, because basically as soon as I decide that I'm definitely streaming and I know roughly when I'm streaming, Discord is where I will make that announcement. So come and join us on Discord. The link is always in the video description of all my videos, so no excuses. So same place, maybe same time, maybe slightly earlier. We will see. Okay. So this is technically chapter 14. Hello, Grandmama. As soon as I was out of the ballroom, I took off like a flash. I streaked down the corridor, went through the lounge and the reading room and the library and the drawing room, and came to the stairs. Up the stairs I went, jumping quite easily from one to the other, keeping well in against the wall all the time. "Are you with me, Bruno?" I whispered. "Right here," he said. My grandmother's room and my own were on the 5th floor. It was quite a climb, but we made it without meeting a single person on the way because everyone was using the lift. On the 5th floor, I raced along the corridor to the door of my grandmother's room. A pair of her shoes was standing outside the door to the... There's actually a mistake in the book. It says, outside the door to the cleaned, but that must be outside the door to be cleaned, or for the cleaner, but that's a bigger mistake. What can you do? What can you do, eh? Amateurs. These book publishers, what are they paid for, eh? I don't know. A pair of her shoes was standing outside the door to be cleaned. Bruno was alongside me. "What do we do now?" he said. Suddenly, I caught sight of a chambermaid coming along the corridor towards us. I saw at once that she was the one who had reported me to the manager for keeping white mice. Not, therefore, the sort of person I wanted to meet in my present condition. "Quick!" I said to Bruno. "Hide in one of those shoes." I hopped into one shoe and Bruno hopped into the other. I waited for the maid to walk past us. She didn't. When she came to the shoes, she bent down and picked them up. In doing this, she put her hand right inside one that I was hiding in. When one of her fingers touched me, I bit it. It was a silly thing to do, but I did it instinctively without thinking. The maid let out a scream that must have been heard by ships far out in the English Channel, and she dropped the shoes and ran like the wind down the corridor. My grandmother's door opened. "What on earth is going on out here?" she said. I darted between her legs into her room and Bruno followed me. "Close the door, Grandmama!" I cried. "Please hurry!" She looked around and saw 2 small brown mouse on the carpet. "Please close it," I said. And this time she actually saw me talking and recognized my voice. She froze and became absolutely motionless. Every part of her body, her fingers and hands and arms and head, suddenly became as stiff as a marble statue. Her face turned even paler than marble, and her eyes were stretched so wide I could see the whites all around them. Then she started to tremble. I thought she was going to faint and fall over. "Please close the door quickly, Grandmama," I said. "That awful maid might come in." She somehow managed to gather herself together enough to close the door. She leaned against it, staring down at me, white-faced and shaking all over. I saw tears beginning to come out of her eyes and go dribbling down her cheeks. "Don't cry, Grandmama," I said. "Things could be a lot worse. I did get away from them. I'm still alive. So is Bruno." Very slowly, she bent down and picked me up with one hand. Then she picked Bruno up with the other hand and put us both on the table. There was a bowl of bananas in the centre of the table, and Bruno jumped straight into it and began tearing away with his teeth at one of the banana skins to get at the fruit inside. My grandmother grasped the arm of her chair to steady herself, but her eyes never left me. "Sit down, dear Grandmama," I said. She collapsed into her chair. "Oh, my darling," she murmured, and now the tears were really streaming down her cheeks. "Oh, my poor sweet darling, what have they done to you?" "I know what they've done, Grandmama, and I know what I am, but the funny thing is that I don't honestly feel especially bad about it. I don't even feel angry. In fact, I feel rather good. I know I'm not a boy any longer, and I never will be again, but I'll be quite all right as long as there's always you to look after me." I was not just trying to console her. I was being absolutely honest about the way I felt. You may think it odd that I wasn't weeping myself. It was odd. I simply can't explain it. "Of course I'll look after you," my grandmother murmured. Who is the other one? That was a boy called Bruno Jenkins, I told her. They got him first. My grandmother took a new long black cigar out of a case in her handbag and put it in her mouth. Then she got out a box of matches. She struck a match, but her fingers were shaking so much that the flame kept missing the end of the cigar. When she got it lit at last, she took a long pull and sucked in the smoke. That seemed to calm her down a bit. Where did it happen? She whispered. Where is the witch now? Is she in the hotel? Grandmama, I said. It wasn't just one. It was hundreds. They're all over the place. They're right here in the hotel this very moment. She leaned forward and stared at me. You don't actually mean... You don't mean to tell me they're holding the annual meeting right here in the hotel? They've held it, Grandmama. It's finished. I heard it all. And all of them, including the Grand High Witch herself, are downstairs now. They're pretending they're the Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children. They're all having tea with the manager. And they caught you? They smelt me out, I said. Dog's droppings, was it? She said, sighing. I'm afraid so. But it wasn't strong. They very nearly didn't smell me because I hadn't had a bath for ages. Children should never have baths, my grandmother said. It's a dangerous habit. I agree, Grandmama. She paused, sucking at her cigar. Do you really mean to tell me that they are now all downstairs having tea? She said. I'm certain of it, Grandmama. There was another pause. I could see the old glint of excitement slowly coming back into my grandmother's eyes. And all of a sudden she sat up very straight in her chair and said sharply, Tell me everything, right from the beginning, and please hurry. I took a deep breath and began to talk. I told about going to the ballroom and hiding behind the screen to do my mouse training. I told about the notice saying Royal Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Children. I told her all about the women coming in and sitting down and about the small woman who appeared on the stage and took off her mask. But when it came to describing what her face looked like underneath the mask, I simply couldn't find the right words. It was horrible, Grandmama, I said. Oh, it was so horrible. It was like something that was going rotten. Go on, my grandmother said. Don't stop. Then I told her about all the others taking off their wigs and their gloves and their shoes, and how I saw before me a sea of bald, pimply heads, and how the women's fingers had little claws, and how their feet had no toes. My grandmother had come forward now in her armchair, so that she was sitting right on the edge of it. Both her hands were cupped over the gold knob of the stick that she always used when walking, and she was staring at me with eyes as bright as 2 stars. Then I told her how the Grand High Witch had shot out the fiery white-hot sparks, and how they had turned one of the other witches into a puff of smoke.
"I've heard about that,"
my grandmother cried out excitedly.
"but I never quite believed it. You were the first non-witch ever to see it happening. It is the Grand High Witch's most famous punishment. It is known as getting fried, and all the other witches are petrified of having it done to them. I am told that the Grand High Witch makes it a rule to fry at least one witch at each annual meeting. She does it in order to keep the rest of them on their toes."
"But they don't have any toes, Grandmamma."
"I know they don't, my darling, but please go on."
So then I told my grandmother about the delayed action mouse maker, and when I came to the bit about turning all the children of England into mice, she actually leapt out of her chair, shouting,
"I knew it! I knew they were brewing up something tremendous."
"We've got to stop them," I said. She turned and stared at me.
"You can't stop witches," she said. "Just look at the power that terrible Grand High Witch has in her eyes alone. She could kill any of us at any time with those white-hot sparks of hers. You saw it yourself."
"Even so, Grandmamma, we've still got to stop her from turning all the children of England into mice."
"You haven't quite finished," she said. "Tell me about Bruno. How did they get him?"
So I described how Bruno Jenkins had come in and how I had actually seen him with my own eyes being shrunk into a mouse. My grandmother looked at Bruno, who was guzzling away in the bowl of bananas.
"Does he never stop eating?" she asked.
"Never," I said.
"Can you explain something to me, Grandmamma?"
"I'll try," she said. She reached out and lifted me off the table and put me on her lap. Very gently, she began stroking the soft fur along my back. It felt nice.
"What is it you want to ask me, my darling?" she said.
"The thing I don't understand," I said, "is how Bruno and I are still able to talk and think, just as we did before."
"It's quite simple," my grandmother said. "All they've done is to shrink you and give you 4 legs and a furry coat, but they haven't been able to change you into a 100% mouse. You are still yourself in everything except your appearance. You've still got your own mind and your own brain and your own voice, and thank goodness for that."
"So I'm not really an ordinary mouse at all," I said. "I'm sort of a mouse person."
"Quite right," she said. "You are a human in mouse's clothing. You are very special."
We sat there in silence for a few moments, while my grandmother went on stroking me very gently with one finger, and puffing her cigar with the other hand. The only sound in the room was made by Bruno, as he attacked the bananas in the bowl. But I wasn't doing nothing as I lay there on her lap. I was thinking like mad. My brain was whizzing as it had never whizzed before. "Grandmamma," I said, "I may have a bit of an idea." "Yes, my darling. What is it?" "The Grand High Witch told them her room was number 454. Right?" "Right," she said. "Well, my room is number 554. Mine, 554, is on the 5th floors, so hers, 454, will be on the 4th floor." "That is correct," my grandmother said. "Then don't you think it's possible that room 454 is directly underneath room 554? "That's more than likely," she said. "These modern hotels are all built like boxes of bricks. But what if it is? Would you please take me out onto the balcony so I can look down?" I said. All the rooms in the Hotel Magnificent had small private balconies. My grandmother carried me through into my own bedroom and out onto my balcony. We both peered down to the balcony immediately below. "Now, if that is her room," I said, "then I'll bet I could climb down there somehow and get in." "And get caught all over again?" my grandmother said. "I won't allow it." "At this moment," I said, "all the witches are down on the Sunshine Terrace having tea with the manager. The Grand High Witch probably won't be back until 6 o'clock or just before. That's when she's going to dish out supplies of that foul formula to the ancient ones who are too old to climb trees after Gruntal's eggs." "And what if you did manage to get into her room?" my grandmother said. "What then?" "Then I should try to find the place where she keeps her supply of delayed action mouse maker, and if I succeeded, then I would steal one bottle of it and bring it back here." "Could you carry it?" "I think so," I said. "It's a very small bottle." "I'm frightened of that stuff," my grandmother said. "What would you do with it if you did manage to get it?" "One bottle is enough for 500 people," I said. "That would give each and every witch down there a double dose at least. We could turn them all into mice." My grandmother jumped about an inch in the air. We were out on my balcony, and there was a drop of about 1,000,000 feet below us, and I very nearly bounced out of her hand over the railings when she jumped. "Be careful with me, Grandmamma," I said. "What an idea!" she cried. "It's fantastic! It's tremendous! You're a genius, my darling!" "Wouldn't it be something?" I said. "Wouldn't that really be something?" "We'd get rid of every witch in England in one swoop," she cried. "And the Grand High Witch into the bargain." "We've got to try it," I said. "Listen," she said, nearly dropping me over the balcony once again in her excitement. "If we brought this off, it would be the greatest triumph in the whole history of witchery." "There's a lot of work to do," I said. "Of course there's lots of work to do," she said. "Just for a start, supposing you did manage to get hold of one of those bottles, how would you get it into their food?" "We'll work that out later," I said. Let's try to get the stuff first. How can we find out for sure if that's her room just below us? We shall check it out immediately, my grandmother cried. Come along, there's not a second to waste. Carrying me in one hand, she went bustling out of the bedroom and along the corridor, banging her stick on the carpet with each step she took. We went down the stairs, one flight to the 4th floor. The bedrooms on either side of the corridor had their numbers painted on the doors in gold. Here it is, my grandmother cried. Number 454. She tried the door. It was locked, of course. She looked up and down the long, empty hotel corridor. I do believe you're right, she said. This room is almost certainly directly below yours. She marched back along the corridor, counting the number of doors from the Grand High Witch's room to the staircase. There were 6. She climbed back up to the 5th floor and repeated the exercise. She is directly below you, my grandmother cried out. Her room is right below yours. She carried me back into my own bedroom and went out once again onto the balcony. That's her balcony down there, she said. And what's more, the door from her balcony into her bedroom is wide open. How are you going to climb down? I don't know, I said. Our rooms were in the front of the hotel, and they looked down onto the beach and the sea. Immediately below my balcony, thousands of feet below, I could see a fence of spiked railings. If I fell, I'd be a goner. I've got it, my grandmother cried. With me in her hand, she rushed back into her own room and began rummaging in the chest of drawers. She came out with a ball of blue knitting wool. One end of it was attached to some needles and a half-finished sock she'd been knitting for me. This is perfect, she said. I shall put you in the sock and lower you down onto the Grand High Witch's balcony. But we must hurry. Any moment now that monster will be returning to her room. Dun, dun, dun. That is the end of chapter 14. Goodness, what a cliffhanger. Here is the plan beginning to be put into action. The grandmother, the old witch hunter, the legend, back in action, ready to help take down not one witch, not a room of witches, not only all the witches in England, no, but all of the witches in England and the Grand High Witch herself. What a cliffhanger. Will they be successful? as the boy is literally hanging from a thread in a sock, being dangled over the 5th floor balcony of the Hotel Magnificent. Can he infiltrate the Grand High Witch's hotel room, acquire one of the bottles of the delayed action mouse maker, and then concoct a master plan to poison all the witches of Inkland and the Grand High Witch herself, and turn not all the children of Inkland into mice, but to turn all the witches and the leader of the world's witches into mice. That would be a turn for the books. Welcome to Anki Yanka. Nice to see you in the stream again. Hello to you. I hope you've been enjoying Chapter 14. If you popped in during that chapter, I'm not sure if I've missed any others popping in. I've missed a couple popping out. I think Madeline, I see, was heading off. Sorry for the printing mistake. That's a rare one with printed books, especially ones that are, many editions old. I don't know what edition this is. It was published 2011, originally published 1983, so I guess it's had a few re-releases since then. I'm not sure, but that for change wasn't me. That was actually a mistake in the book. But a great chapter, and it was really nice to have a longer chapter there as well. I really hope you enjoyed that one. Yeah, good fun. I'm sure you're looking forward to the culmination of this book. We have about a quarter to go ish, so not long to go. Will they be successful? You're gonna have to come back and find out on one of our next Foxy book clubs. No, you're not allowed to do that, Teresa. You're not allowed to go get the book and find out what happens. You need to be a patient Fox fan. You are a patient Fox fan with Tamaria Prince. You can be a patient Fox fan with the witches and share this magic moment together. You are off adventuring, Mango. Oh, and bye-bye to Orange. Thanks so much for joining. Very nice to have you here. Oh, that's lovely to hear, Anki Anka. Cheers, Logan. Good stuff. Oh, and thanks to Minx as well. Thanks, Jane. Yeah, suspense indeed. Colour. It felt like a good place to pause as well, I think. Keep you eager beavers looking forward to more. It's so nice to hear, Mango. Thanks so much. You see, you can do a lot with children's stories, especially ones that are quite... It's very cheesy or cliche to say this kind of thing, but like very layered. They really appeal to adults as well, I think. And it's great to see that you think that I'm doing a good job in bringing this one to life. Hope I've not missed any Facebook chatters. I don't think we've had any Facebook chatters today. I've just been skimming through the multi-stream view, so hopefully I've not missed anybody. Yeah, the time is always a little bit different, to be honest, Anki Anka. They normally range from 2 p.m. ish to about 5 p.m. ish latest. Honestly, I don't know what the average start time is. You guys might know better than me. So today I started just after 4 p.m. my time. No, 5 p.m., right? Was it just after 5 p.m. my time? I'm losing track of the time. Let me see. Yeah, just after 5 p.m. my time, which is a bit of a later start. So I think the average is probably like 3:30, 4 p.m. my time, so a little bit earlier than this. But I don't have a set time. Wunderbar, says Isis Pierce. Yeah, it's been 3 hours today, so one of the longer ones these days. I've had some extremely long streams back in the day, about 6 hours or so. But these days, since I've relaunched the book club this year, they've been more at the like 2 to 3 hour mark, and we get a good couple of readings in and a bit of chat. So yeah, it's not totally random times, as Shannon will let you know. There is always some method to my madness. There was always a reason why I used to do very late night streams, my time, because like I've said many times, 10 p.m. till 2 a.m. Central European time is pretty much the peak of my channel in terms of views. So it just manages to bring in as many Fox fans as possible. Obviously, that's going to leave some people struggling to make them live, and some people will nearly always be able to make them live. But now, with a lot of people being at home, I thought it would be nice to do daytime streams. So those of you in those Western time zones, you get it in the morning. Those of you in the Eastern time zones get it at the night time. And those of you in my time zone, or approximately around there, maybe back in the UK or Central Europe and a little bit east, you're getting it as like a mid-afternoon treat. So although it's not the peak of my channel in terms of views, there's a method to it. So I just don't like to be like nailed down to a specific start time. I'm always working on other things in the morning, and I just want to feel relaxed, and so that it just fits when it fits. And like I said, Discord is the best place to be if you want to know as close as you can know when I'm going to start. But all these streams over these last 3 weeks have been approximately between 2 and 5 my time, start time. So yeah, method to the madness. Who are you asking that to, Anki Anka? I'm in Sweden. So I'm from the UK, but I'm living in Sweden. If you were asking me, I'm not sure. Yeah. I don't think it's only one that was 6 hours. Could be right. Could be right. There was definitely a few 5 hours if there wasn't more than one 6. Like that one that I did. I was going to say in my old apartment. That really doesn't help. But the apartment where I started the streams with video, I did 3 streams there where we were doing Alice in Wonderland, and then I did a couple of streams where I was losing my Red Fox Voice channel, and there was one of those streams where you, Shannon, and Teresa were bombarding me with Twitch tips, which was obviously unbelievably kind when I was feeling pretty miserable with losing that channel and other things. And then I did I can't remember if I did a couple of those Lord of the Rings streams, or if it was this stream that I'm picturing, where it was really late at night and I had like quite bright lighting shining this way, and I read To Marry a Prince chapter 8 with the thumbnail things are heating up. That was a real long one. At least 5 hours, if not more, and I didn't even take a break. It was probably a little bit silly. And then a lot of those original book clubs before I was using the video, the original squeaky chair book clubs, some of those were ridiculously long as well. But I think it works best if I do this sort of like 2.5, 3 hours length. It stops me wearing myself out, and I can, I feel so much better doing them regularly. It's really, really, really nice. So I think it's working pretty well. Oh, nice idea, Anki Anka. Yeah, like, why not? Like, I guess the only thing with that is, like, I've only got one phone number. So, for Swish, I believe you have to do a mobile number. Am I wrong? It's probably not a great idea to start handing out my personal telephone number at this stage. We'll see. If there's another way of doing it, I mean, sure, I could get like a work phone, but it seems a little bit messy. But that's a really nice idea, actually. I'm not sure if I realised you were living in Sweden as well. There's quite a lot of Swedish Fox fans, actually. It's really, really cool. But yeah, we're sharing this fair blue and yellow land. But that's a really nice idea. So yeah, I don't know if you know whether there's another way of sort of paying through Swish, but that's a really, really nice idea. Really, really, really nice idea. I can look into it. And if you send me an email, Anki Anka, in the video description, there's 2 emails there. It doesn't matter which you use. There's the sgarnet88 one, or there's the redfoxvoice@gmail one. The sgarnet one is also linked to my PayPal. We were trying to fix this before. And there's the money pool link there as well. Just a quick shout out to my donators. Thank you so much. But yes, either of those emails, just send me an email and we can talk there. That would be super. And then things don't get lost in the comments or whatever. Yeah, the squeaky chair readings. Back in the day, Mango. You're missing them, Laurie. I'm going to have to just get squeaky sound effects just to give you that little rush of nostalgia. Excuse me. Exactly, the horn stream. I could have just said the horn stream, Olivia. That's packed down somewhere. I don't know where it is. It's still in a box from when I've moved a million times. Excuse me. Did I get those? They will have made their way to me, Teresa. If you remember, with Twitch, I'm pretty sure I was telling you about it on Discord or somewhere. That there's a threshold. I remember Miranda joking about it, that like the next time I get a payment on Twitch will be in a year's time. It's probably going to be longer than that. But yeah, there's a threshold. So when you go over something like $100 revenue or something on Twitch, that's when you get the first payment. And I think you don't get the next one until you reach the next threshold or whatever. And I've not been using Twitch, but there's not much sat there pending. So those ones where you were having the tip battle, they will have been paid out to me in that first threshold payment or whatever. So yeah, thank you for that. It was an emotional evening, that. Yes. But I'm going to say goodbye for today. The sun has already gone down here in Stockholm. There's just the last little lines of yellow hanging on to some of the clouds out there I can see. So I'm gonna say goodbye today. It's been an absolute pleasure as always. I really hope you've enjoyed these 3 chapters of The Witches and that chapter of To Marry a Prince earlier as well. So do come and join me tomorrow. It'll be fantastic to see you. Leave me a comment if you would like to let me know what you're looking forward to, and we will figure things out tomorrow. I'll have a little think if there's something that I would like to start with, whether it's some more James Herriot or maybe 1984 to kick things off. I'll see. And then there's a few things that we can get stuck into. Thanks so much for being here, Jane. It's been great to have you. I won't go into more question and answer time now, Danielle, but ask me that tomorrow or come and join me on Discord and we can have a little chat there as well. I'm always doing these little spontaneous question and answer sessions. It's really, really nice. But I'll wrap things up for today. Same for you, Colour Brights. Or you can always leave questions in the comments as well, and I'll try and get back to you there as well. So thanks so much, everybody. I hope to see you tomorrow, roughly at the same time. I think maybe an hour earlier, but we will see. All right. So take care of yourselves. I hope the rest of your day or night is as smooth as possible, especially with many strange things going on in the world at the moment. So stay foxy. Hope to see you tomorrow. Thanks to you all. And thank you, Anki Anka. I'll check that out this evening. Thanks very much for the email. I'll get back to you. And of course, read to you soon. Goodbye, everybody. Hope to see you tomorrow.